Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from YellowCat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Divorce lawyers of Reddit. What are some of your most memorable cases? My aunt has been divorced for quite some time. She drives her attorney crazy with her requests/demands. Most recently, she took her husband to court over 1. He switched the beneficiary of his life insurance policy from her, the ex-wife, to their children. 2. She wants court-ordered drug tests weekly. She found out from her friend who works at a pharmacy that he had quite a few narcotic prescriptions, but obviously can't enter that into evidence or friend will be fired. 3. Wants to know the days he's working and locations so she can have her private investigator keep an eye out and make sure the new girlfriend isn't joining him at hotels he's charging on his work card. At some point, she just needs to let it go and move on. She got the house and the house payments, the kids, the boat, and the Marriott points. He doesn't pay alimony or child support, so it seems like it worked out well. Had a husband and wife go toe-to-toe over an ashtray they got in Vegas at some point. Neither smoked, strangely enough. Spent nearly $5,000 for me and another attorney to duke it out in court over the silly thing. Prior to proceeding, I explained what the cost would be to argue over something silly like this and that he could give me $2,500 and I would fly to Vegas for the weekend and get him an identical one instead. He said he didn't care about the costs because he intended to smash it on the courtroom steps in front of her if we won. We won and he followed through with the smashing. He laughed and said the look on her face was worth much more than $2,500. People get crazy in divorce proceedings. I'm a tax lawyer, not a divorce one, but this case from my native RI has always been a favorite of mine for the legal argument and an example of what ex-spouses can do. Johnson v. Johnson, which was heard before the Supreme Court of RI. A man calls his wife a W in a crowded restaurant. She sues him for slander. The court agrees with him that she's a W. I once represented a client from a divorcing couple who still lived together pending the sale of the family home but would not speak to one another for any reason whatsoever. Had to negotiate terms with opposing counsel for the sharing of refrigerator space. My mom works in divorce court. She comes home with stories that are interesting, sad, funny, and sometimes just weird. It's what you would expect for the most part. Then there are the drug addicts that don't want to give up custody. The day of the drug test comes and the person miraculously decided to shave their entire body. Tests are now given right after the judge asks for one. And some are hilarious when you are not the one involved. My favorite is a voicemail is played in court as evidence. The wife is cheating on the guy. The voicemail is from the husband to the wife. Hey, I know you're there. The only reason you can't answer is because I know you can't speak with that guy's D in your mouth. Sometimes my mom has those stories which are funny if you are not involved. One of my all-time favorites is the marriage of Thomas and Denise Rossi. I am not connected to the case, but it was a notorious case that resulted in a published California Court of Appeal opinion, which means that all the details are public record. Denise Rossi won $1.3 million as part of a group of co-workers who wanted to join a lottery pool together. 11 days later, she filed for divorce and moved out. She never mentioned the winning lottery ticket to Thomas. She also did not disclose the proceedings as either her separate property or as community property during the divorce. And she would have gotten away with it too if it hadn't been for the letter that was sent to the marital residence over 2 years after the divorce had been finalized. The letter was an offer to buy out Denise's lottery annuity with a lump sum payment. Thomas promptly lawyered up and the family court awarded 100% of the prize proceedings to Thomas. For the legally curious, please understand that California is a community property state, which means, among other things, that all earnings during marriage are community property that is owned equally by both spouses. Anything obtained using community property funds, like a lottery ticket, is also community property. There are also heavy penalties for violating the disclosure requirements that come along with a divorce in California family law matters. You must disclose all of your assets to the other side, even if there is no question that some of the assets are your separate property. In any case where a party to a divorce fraudulently conceals a community property asset, as with the Rosies, it is mandatory under Family Code Section 1100 for the court to award 100% of the asset to the other party, and other penalties can also be applied. I worked as courtroom clerk / front desk when I was in college. A couple argued on the details of their son. I thought it was the normal, "I won't let you see him, you piece of S," but mom wants the dad to spend more time during holidays together. All three of them, and the dad, wants to do the same, just more frequently. They ended up reconciled and agreed to couples therapy before the divorce procedure went further. Then they came back a month later to withdraw the divorce proceedings. I had a case where the husband found some incriminating texts on his wife's phone that she was cheating on him with some guy, and also getting the impression his sister-in-law might be in on it in some way. Him and his brother end up hiring a PI to tail them both to get the truth. They essentially confirm that both women are seeing other people. The sister-in-law admitted full guilt of sleeping with another man, and they attempted to reconcile, but his brother eventually filed for divorce. The one wife admitted she was looking to sleep with the guy, but they only met for some kisses and she touched his pee a little bit in hoping that would prove that she was still faithful since she couldn't go through with it. He filed for divorce anyway. Also, a serious tag helps these kinds of threads. I'm a real estate lawyer, but a friend of a friend is a divorce lawyer. I was once told a story where said lawyer was brutally attacked by a client's former spouse. Apparently, the former spouse blamed the divorce attorney for taking him to the cleaners in the divorce. The worst part is that the lawyer was at the grocery store doing his weekly food shopping with his wife and kids when he was savagely beaten. Criminal lawyers work with the worst people on their best behavior. Family lawyers work with the best people on their worst behavior. My father did divorce law for many years. We were in Virginia Beach for a tournament I was in with a friend of mine and his father. This is back around 2007. My dad got a call from a forensic accountant he hired to track down some accounts his client knew her husband stashed money in. He was asked to pull over and to put him on speaker because he would not believe what he was about to tell him. The accountant traced all of his money to 3 bank accounts totaling over $300 million in another country. My friend's father screamed. My father dropped his phone, and there were numerous WTF from the back seat. My father's client made out with 2 of the 3 accounts, and they walked away silently. He was paid in full, given a small bonus, and has never heard from her again. I'm a divorce lawyer. I'd love to share some, but it's against our professional rules of ethics to describe anything specific enough that someone reading it would recognize him or herself in it. That being said, I've seen people fight over calculators, underwear, llamas who burn down the barn, and other ridiculously petty things to more serious cases of domestic violence and child abuse. Yes, divorce lawyers can be emotionally distant. This is a coping mechanism and a necessary one at that. Yes, divorce lawyers are expensive, but they are a privilege which can save you from getting totally screwed, subject to the law of your state and the humor of your judge. I feel like my fees are fair considering I have a doctorate in law and I'm using my time and experience to give my clients advice and steer them through the process while protecting their rights, fighting for a favorable outcome, saving them from being at every court date, and all of this while adhering to state, county, and court rules and case law. I always give my clients a choice when I think what they are fighting for is not worth it for what they will pay in fees. Also, I think one challenge for us is most non-lawyers don't realize how counterintuitive the system is and how evidence doesn't just come in automatically. It can be a tough battle and you have to make lots of sacrifices along the way. But as I remind them, no one really wins when you are splitting everything you have in half. A friend who is a lawyer told me a pretty crazy story about a wealthy couple splitting up. The woman hid millions of dollars overseas and cut up all her husband's clothing with a pair of scissors. These shenanigans caused her to get almost nothing. Represented the husband. Tried to get court to eliminate his spousal support obligations. Wife insisted she needed the support. It took way longer than it should have because she was regularly taking vacations to Mexico. Regularly equals at least once a month. It took longer than it should have because we have to reschedule a few times, but the court eventually ended the spousal support. Contrary to what the silly people at TRP would have you believe, family law is not designed forward a radical feminist agenda. My grandfather went through a pretty high-stakes divorce about 10 years ago. He founded a consulting firm in 1994 that ended up being worth several $1,000,000. He was married to his second wife, not my grandmother, who was his first wife whom he divorced in the 80s when he founded it. She is an executive for a large health and beauty product company. They were both very successful. When they divorced, they had been living in a very large house in an exclusive neighborhood in an affluent southern suburb. She got the house and kept her wealth that she had amassed from her company, but that wasn't it. She also wanted 51% of my grandfather's company. She didn't win that in court because she had already won more than half of the assets. I doubt my grandfather really gave an F about that, but I could be wrong. He just wanted to keep his company, which already made him plenty of money. Things got interesting after they separated. She allegedly hired a private investigator to stalk my grandfather. Yes, stalk. We found a tracking device attached to his car. No BS. He moved into an apartment for a while during the divorce proceedings. She and her lawyer eventually went to his apartment to take pictures of everything he owned. He obviously let them into his apartment. They even opened up his fridge and took pictures of the inside of his fridge. My grandfather eventually started dating somebody else, yes, at around age 60. He likes women. And the ex-wife would call my grandfather's house and talk to her, trying to appear friendly or something. It was just a very strange situation. It was even stranger for me. I had grown up with her sort of as my grandmother. I never knew she wasn't my actual grandmother until I met my dad's actual mom at age 7. I didn't meet my father until age 6, mind you. It was kind of confusing until the divorce. But during and after the divorce, my grandfather's ex would call my mother to ask to take me out to dinner and movies and things like that. I remember seeing Star Wars Episode 3 in theaters with her. I didn't find it strange or anything. She had known me since I was born and served as a grandmotherly figure. However, my father hated her. I heard a lot of stories of the crazy S she did to him when my dad was a teenager. I haven't talked to her for several years. I much prefer my actual grandmother. Divorce is strange. Seeing how easily it can tear families apart and F over individuals, I'm definitely doing a prenup when/if I get married. You never know. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all of the support and likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.